is Ijtema. We want to start the recitation of the Quran. This is going to be done by Walim Awad Abdul Hakim. I hope he's there. Okay, I understand he's needed. So we listen to him from there.
We can hear you clearly. You can continue.
We cannot hear you, please. We cannot hear you.
كذلك زينا لكل أمة عملهم كذلك زينا لكل أمة عملهم ثم إلى ربهم مرجعهم فينبئهم بما كانوا يعملون وأقسموا بالله جهد أيمانهم لئن جاءتهم آية ليؤمنن بها قل إنما الآيات عند الله وما يشعركم أنها إذا جاءت لا يؤمنون. Meaning, in the name of Allah, the gracious, ever merciful, the originator of heavens and the earth, how can he have a son when he has no consort? And when he has created everything and has knowledge of all things? Such is Allah, the Lord. There is no God but He, the creator of all things. So worship Him, and He is the guardian over everything. Eyes cannot reach Him, but He reaches the eyes. And He is the incomprehensible, the all-aware. Proofs have indeed come to you from your God. So whoever sees it is for his own good, and whoever becomes blind, it is to his own harm. And I am not a guardian over you. And thus, do we vary the signs that the truth may become established? But the result is that they say, thou hast learned well. And we vary the signs that we may explain it to people who have knowledge. Follow that which has been revealed to thee from the Lord. There is no God but He. And turn aside from the idolaters. And if Allah had enforced His will, they would not have set up gods with Him. And we have not made Thee a keeper over them, nor art thou over them a guardian. And refine not those whom they call upon beside Allah, lest Allah out of spite refine Allah, lest they out of spite refine Allah in their ignorance. Thus unto every people have we caused their doing to seem fair. Then unto their Lord is their return, and He will inform them of what they used to do. And they swear their strongest up by Allah that if there came to them a sign, they will surely believe therein. Say, surely signs are with Allah. But what should make you understand that when the signs come, they will not believe? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Next is opening dua.
Recording in progress.
Please join me in the silent prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
And it will. Okay.
تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع الدعاء. آمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We are starting this. We were supposed to have started at 2 p.m. We started about 2:17 or thereabout. Therefore, Chairman's opening speech would just be to welcome all of us to this session of the Ijtema Alhamdulillah, the first session went very well. We all enjoyed it. So it is hope and prayer that this session too, will be highly rewarding, for every one of us, inshallah, assist. I'll not waste too much time. I will just go straight to lecture 3, which we are supposed to start at 2:20. So it's 2:28 now. So let us invite our lecturer, Missionary Barrister Rabiu Usman Sahib, Murabi Cecilia, Murabi Circuit. The topic upon which he is going to deliver his lecture is freedom of expression. Freedom of expression and its limits according to Islam. Freedom of expression and its limits according to Islam. Barrister Sahib.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Naib Amir Admin of Finance Sahib, the Sada Majlis Ansarullah Nigeria Sahib, all other national officers of the Majlis, fathers and brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Freedom of expression and its limits according to Islam is the topic to be presented. Discussing a topic of this importance at a gathering or program of this magnitude, and particularly at the critical moment in the history of Nigeria, is a very welcome idea. We are all living witnesses to the avalanche of tragedy bedeviling our nation for some time now. And information management in such a precarious situation as ours is very necessary. Therefore, we need to remind ourselves what freedom of expression and its limits, particularly in line with Islamic injunctions, is all about. So let's get started. Fact. Sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It will create a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable, called cognitive dissonance. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize. And of course, we know Nigerians are very good at that. We can rationalize and even justify what is unjustifiable. So they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with the core belief. By Franz Fanon. Introduction. Etymologically, freedom is defined as the condition of being free, politically independent, frankness, unrestricted use of ideas, and faculty of motion. But real freedom cannot be enjoyed or achieved without sacrifice of individuals' great desires for the development of a good community or without practicing justice. And we are all aware that one can only talk of freedom in a peaceful society. In a society that is chaotic, almost every freedom is taken away, including the foremost of all freedom, which is right to life. And that is why today, almost every freedom that both the law and nature has given to every one of us as citizens of Nigeria are being taken away, not by anybody, but by the various situations we find ourselves. So there cannot be any freedom in the absence of peace and orderliness in a society. Likewise, a peaceful society or a good society is not achieved on a platter of gold. People must make sacrifices to have a peaceful and good environment. Also, there can never be a peaceful society without justice. All these things are very, very important to have freedom in any society. In other words, freedom can be defined as a mental condition or a condition of the spirit. It is also called control of self from ill will for the safety and security of humankind. Freedom of expression. The term freedom of expression includes all its aspects, such as freedom of religion, expression, association, movement, and all one can be considered to be under its umbrella. Freedom of expression has a long history that predates modern international human rights instruments. A sequence of English thinkers was at the forefront at the beginning of the discussion, and they discussed the idea of rights to freedom of expression extensively. Among them, John Milton of 1608 to 1674 and John Locke of 1632 to 1704 were the thought bearers of this thought. By the second half of the 17th century, philosophers of the European continent like Baruch Spinoza and Pierre Bell discussed ideas encompassing a more universal aspect of freedom of expression and toleration more than the early English philosophers. By the 18th century, the idea of freedom of expression was being discussed by thinkers all over the Western world. At international level, this thought has been given legal sanction, and Article 19 of UNESCO Global Campaign for Free Expression July 2000, states the general principles adopted by various representatives of different countries as follows. Principle 1, freedom of opinion, expression, and information. Paragraph A, everyone has the right to hold opinion without interference. Paragraph B, everyone has the right to freedom of expression, which includes the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing, or in print, in the form of art, or in any other or by any other media of his or her choice. C, the exercise of the right to freedom of expression is subject to restrictions on certain grounds as established in international law, including for the protections of the reputations of others. Paragraph D, anyone affected, directly or indirectly, by restriction on freedom of expression must be able to challenge the validity of that restriction as a matter of constitutional or human rights law before an independent court or a tribunal. Paragraph E, any application of restriction on freedom of expression must be subject to adequate safeguard against abuse, including the right of access to an independent court or tribunal. However, after having passed through the shattering and devastating experience of 2 world wars, and in the shadow of a nuclear holocaust, despite all the efforts that have so far been put forth, to the contrary, man continues to be the victim of discrimination, intolerance, and cruelty at the hands of fellow man. As we are all aware that after the Second World War, so many organizations and alliances were formed, such as the United Nations Organization, African Organization, OAU, and all these organizations and alliances, in a bid to ensure that there is peace and harmony in the world, came up with so many declarations, articles, laws, and etc., such as United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, African Charter of Human Rights, and the UNESCO principles on human rights, which I have read about 5 provisions from that principle. But despite all these efforts, we can see that man continues to be in search of peace. In other words, all these declarations, all these articles have not been able to resolve the problem that even led to the First and Second World War. And of course, there is a premonition of a looming Third World War, which of course will be more disastrous and highly catastrophic than the 2 world wars put together, because so many weapons of mass destruction have been produced, so much so that even a device can put an end to the entire universe. One would have expected that man's daily increasing knowledge of the working of the laws of nature and his growing mastery over the forces of the law of nature, which has opened for every one of us the prospect of a richer, fuller, and happier life, would have ushered in an era in which man could dispense with the weapons of greed, selfishness, exploitation, and dominance. For indeed, the truth is daily becoming more manifested as experience in every field continue to furnish confirmation that the prosperity of all is protected by mutual sharing and understanding rather than through the exploitation and domination of some by others. Freedom of expression is a person's right to express his ideas and feelings by his own choice and will. It is an inalienable right that cannot be undermined. However, freedom of expression in today's realities of social media and dynamism of globalization made possible by the advancement of science and technology in the field of communication has become a worrying concern for all parties. Hence, the necessity and the frantic efforts by certain authorities and governments all over the world to regulate, limit, and restrict right to freedom of Nigeria being no exception. Classification of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression can be classified into four. Freedom of expression by means of speech. Number two, by means of writing or publication. Number three, by means of strike action or industrial action. And the last but not the least, freedom of expression by means of demonstration, street protest, or agitation. Freedom of expression by means of speech and writing are common among individuals, while freedom of expression by means of strike action and demonstration are often utilized as a weapon against employers and governments by workers and citizens to pursue certain demands. Islamic concept. Freedom of expression in Islam predated all human postulations and theories. It is a special gift of Allah for mankind, and mankind needs to make full use of this divine gift without harm or being harmed. Freedom of expression is a need of everyone to identify his individuality, to speak his mind and heart, and to convey and articulate his ideas and thought for the goodness of the mankind and to serve the society in the right way. Allah says, have we not given him 2 eyes and a tongue and 2 lips, and we have pointed out to him the 2 highways of evil, of good and evil. Alam naj'al lahu 'aynayn wa lisanan wa shafatayn wa hadaynahu najdayn. Freedom of expression in Islam, its objective is to promote love, tolerance, peaceful coexistence, mutual understanding, and social harmony. The importance of freedom of expression in Islam can be seen in the practice of shura, mutual consultation. Shura gives room for robust deliberations, which ultimately bring about better understanding and wholesome decisions for the overall benefits of the society. Allah says, and those who hearken to their Lord and observe prayer, and whose affairs are decided by mutual consultation. It is by the special mercy of God that thou art kind towards them. If thou art been rough and hard-hearted, they will surely have dispersed from around thee. So therefore forgive them and consult them in matters of administration. And when thou art determined, then put thy trust in Allah. Verily Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. Instances of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, consultation with the companions are found in Islamic history. On one occasion, the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam decided to camp at a particular place during a battle. On being asked by the companion if his decision was divinely informed, the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam answered to the contrary. Then the companions advised, based on their warfare experience, that that particular place will not be to their advantage to camp. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, keeping up with the right to freedom of expression, readily agreed without any hesitation with the companions. There are also so many instances to show that the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam door was always open for consultation with the companions on matters of administration. Even there are instances where certain verses of the Holy Quran were revealed as a result of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam consultation with the companions. One such example is the issue of zihar, which is contained in Quran chapter 58, Surah Al-Mujadala. When a woman came to the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to complain about what her husband did. So as they were conversing, right here, that surah was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, wherein the legal principle of zihar was laid down in Islam. So, freedom of expression in Islam has been in existence for close to 1,500 years, ever before the advent of any philosopher in the world. Freedom of expression in the assemblies, public meetings, sharing useful information constitutes both a right and a duty for all believers. Men and women, rulers and the ruled, all are equally entrusted with authority to ensure such. Islam condemns falsehood, passiveness, and reluctance when the truth should be spoken and when highlighted. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And confound not truth with falsehood, nor knowing conceal the truth while you know. Freedom of expression is a blessing and a fundamental need of everyone to live as a useful member of the human society. None is allowed to misuse this right, when especially the rights of others are involved, every individual must think and speak well about others. Wakulu linasi usna. In his address at the latest section at the just concluded 2021 UK JASA, His Holiness Allah Kalimat Masih Khamis Hayat Allah bin Nasr said, the freedom which is being touted nowadays is actually leading to ruin. What some fail to understand is that such enlightenment and so-called freedom is leading our future generation on a path of ruin. When only people try to save themselves from an evil, they fall into another evil, for their spiritual eyes are closed. The so-called freedom and enlightenment being referred to here by Allah Kalimat Masih Khamis is the rising consciousness of individual liberty in some country, which is rendering man free from all discipline of social and moral life, which is of course contrary to the freedom preached by Islam. Limitation. Right to freedom of expression in Islam is not absolute. It is subject to restriction on two grounds. 1. Public interest. 2. Express pronouncement or decisions of Allah and His Messenger on certain matters. Allah says, it behoves not a believing man or a believing woman when Allah and His messengers have decided a matter that there should be for them a choice in the matter concerning them, and also disobeys Allah and His messenger, surely stray away in manifest error. For instance, certain matters have been decided either by Allah or His Prophet, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, any issue that has so far been decided, that has been signed, sealed, and delivered, of course, there is no room for any debate under any pretext over such matter. For instance, the issue of hijab or dress code for Muslim women is a prescription of Almighty Allah Himself. So no one cannot come under any pretext or under any freedom, be it freedom of expression, be it individual liberty, to now tell us that we should now debate whether Muslim ladies should go out naked. Of course, that will be any debate, any opinion on that issue which has been put to rest by Allah Himself will be an ultraviolence. So there is a limit to what we can discuss in such instances. Again, the of Salat. A Muslim is expected to pray 5 times daily. So nobody will now come and say that after all, prayer is a personal issue. So that will be left for everybody to decide how many times you will pray a day. Of course, that call or that idea will not be welcome because it has been signed, sealed, and delivered through prophetic sunnah. The Prophet has told us and he has demonstrated how many times a Muslim should pray. So, there are limitations on such issues which have been decided by Allah Himself or by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So, there are no gray area under any pretext. Freedom of expression. Restriction of freedom of expression on the basis of public interest are often more of spiritual and moral persuasion than sanction and penalty. And he never knows a word, but there is by him a guardian angel ready to record whatever he says. Man yalfizu min qawlin illa ladayhi raqibun atid. Here, no particular sanction is attached, but onions knows that having this particular verse in mind, he knows that he must be cautious and conscious of his utterances. Just like the law provides that when an accused is about to write a statement at the police station, the police officer must tell him, as a matter of law, that whatever he writes will be used as evidence against him. That is the provision of the law. Whether that is being adhered to or not is another issue. But that is the law. So in the same way in Islam, no particular punishment is mentioned here, but you are cautioned that as a Muslim, no, you have the right to express yourself, because it is Almighty Allah who has given you that right. But you must always keep in mind that مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. Of course, no Muslim who want to say anything that will be used against him on the day of judgment. In the second verse, Allah says, "And follow not that which thou hast no knowledge. Verily, the ear and the eye and the heart, all of these shall be called to question or to give account." So, having realized this, we will discover that every Muslim will be cautious of whatever he utters or whatever he sees. Naturally, when we see, we must talk. Everybody saw. But it is not everything that the eye sees that the mouth must talk. That is what the Quran is telling us here. Although you have the eyes to see, it is God who has given you. You have the ear to hear everything, but it is not everything that you hear that you must communicate, that you must share. At times you hear something, you know that this thing is not something to be shared. This thing is not something to communicate to any other person. You keep it to yourself. So there are so many verses that come in that form, that is, in form of admonition, in form of caution. So caution, as opposed to punishment, is the key element in the above two Quranic verses. Islamic perspective for right to freedom of expression is comprehensible. It helps keep up society in a serene behavior. In Islam, people are restricted to communicate their opinions only when one fails to lend a community hard value to remain in peace and tranquility, and to maintain richness of diversity, so that people keep away from social tribulations, pandemonium, and model. Allusion to restrictions on right to freedom of expression can be deduced from the following few Quranic verses. Number one, unseemly speech, or evil speech, or hate speech. Allah says, Allah likes not the uttering of unseemly speech in public, except on the part of one who is being wronged. Evil speech interferes with the public peace and order, and thus violates human dignity. And that's why Holy Quran cautions that Allah Himself dislikes that one should be unmindful of his utterances in public, except when you are being wronged. For instance, if a woman is about to be raped, and she now shouts out, or please help me, he wants to rape me, that is allowed. But ordinarily, a woman cannot come out to say that after all, last night, my husband wanted to have an affair with me. That will not be allowed in Islam. But if another man tries to have an affair with her, in that process, the woman can shout in order to request for help. Another verse, that is abuse. Allah says in Surah Al-Hujurat, "O you believe, let not one people deride another people. happy they may be better than they. Nor let women deride another women, happy they may be better than they. And do not defame your own people, nor call one another by nicknames. Bad indeed is evil reputation after the possession of Maan. And those who repent not, such are the evildoers or transgressors. You know, in Nigeria, there is this division along ethnic and religious parochialism, north versus south, Muslim versus Christians. And on several occasions, you hear and one hears unguided speech, utterances from both sides, abusing, accusing, and sometimes defaming people of other sides. But as Muslims, we also know that first and foremost, Ya ayuha nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa unsa, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. We are all human beings, whether you are from the north or you are from the south, whether you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, or you belong to one of these traditional religions. We are all from a single soul. Min dhakarin wa unsa, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila. Allah says, He is the one that has created us into tribes and sub-tribes. And the reason for that is that litarafu, that you may recognize one another and not to fight or quarrel or to abuse one another. So, Muslims, particularly we Ahmadis, we also know that though we have the right to express ourselves, but at the same time, we must keep in mind this particular verse. So, if any unguarded utterances are coming from one side of the divide, it is for us as worthy ambassadors of Islam to let the people know the beauty of Islam, or to let the people know what should be said, or what should be our position without resulting into any ridicule or abuse. And at times, we want to correct somebody. There are ways we can do it without resulting or subjecting that person to any ridicule, that he will even appreciate our correction. But in most cases, rather than doing what is right, rather than trying as much as possible to caution ourselves, at times throw caution into the wind and also join other people along these ethnic and religious divisions, which is not expected of us as Ahmadis. Then number 3, abuse. The best speech according to the Quran is dawah, invitation to the way of Almighty Allah. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مُسْلِمٌ. Who is better in speech than he who invites men to Allah and does good work and says, I'm one of those who submit. However, this laudable obligation is not without restriction. And of course, as we are all aware, the right to propagate our religion is a fundamental human right. It is under right to freedom of religion. So the law of the land allows us to propagate our religion. The law of Islam allows us to propagate our religion. But at the same time, we must not exercise that right to occasion any discomfort to another person, or to subject other people or the followers of other religion to any ridicule. And that's why Allah cautions. Allah says, and revile not those whom they call beside Allah, lest they out of spite revile Allah in their ignorance. And of course it's natural. When you abuse their gods, they will also abuse Allah whom you serve. So Allah says that should not happen. The Holy Prophet Muhammad says, I once told his companion that don't abuse your parents. Then the companion said that, can anyone ever abuse his parents? The Prophet said yes. And he asked how. The Prophet said that when you abuse another person's parent, and he abuses your parents, in return, then automatically you have abused your own parents. You can also see Quran chapter 16, verse 126, that is, Udurun ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mau'izati al hasan wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan, and call unto the way of your Lord with wisdom and goodly exhortation. Then another one is the issue of fake news. The potential dangers of fake news or misinformation can never be underestimated. It is capable of igniting an unending crisis which is capable of destroying a whole nation. Hence, Allah cautions. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahalatin fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. Allah says, what do you believe? When an unrighteous person brings you any news, investigate that news fully, lest you have a people in ignorance and you become repentant for what you have done. In modern time, every medium of communication, print or electronic, that is every medium, your WhatsApp, your Instagram, and the one that has not been banned, Twitter, all these things in modern times have become potential fast, or even what you read in the dailies, magazines, pamphlets. All these things are means through which people send all kinds of information, and sometimes some of this information are so inimical to the peace and corporate unity of the nation. So one must therefore endeavor to investigate the source, authenticity, and usefulness of any information received through any of the available mediums before digesting it and probably sharing it to others. So whatever information we receive today as Muslims, as Ahmadi Muslims, we must to carefully look at it very well. First, what is the source of that information? How genuine is that information? Even though you may know the source of an information, it may be genuine, but is it useful? What purpose will it serve for you to now disseminate such information? For instance, if a lady of her own volition takes a snap of herself half naked and now send it, and you happen to see it as a Muslim, you know that actually the picture really came from that lady, not that it was done by another person. But what purpose will it serve for you to now start sharing it? Today, many of us are good forward manner. Whatever we see on any platform, we must follow it without even taking a second look or second thought at such information. Sometimes we even send it to a platform where that information is completely irrelevant. It is of no use to some platform, yet we send it there. So all these things, in a way, are contributing to the challenges that we are having already. And that is why the government is fighting back by coming up with so many regulations, amendment to existing laws, and also coming up with new laws in order to regulate that aspect of our life, which is right to freedom of expression. And of course, naturally people will react and fight back. Some people have seen this government effort as an attempt to take away their right to freedom of expression, or an attempt to guard the press. But of course, it is the responsibility of any government to make sure that any information that is insightful, any information that will cause problem or hurt fuel to the existing raging inferno that is already consuming the entire nation. So it is the duty of any government to make sure that such rights are curtailed. But of course, they must not go beyond the boundaries or ambit of the law as well. Again, Islam vehemently abhors every tendency, behavior, and utterance that promotes indecency. Allah says, Allah enjoins justice and the doing of good to others, and giving our kindred, and forbids indecency, malicious evil, and wrongful transgressions. He admonishes you that you maintain it. Again, lastly on that, Islam encourages us to ask questions when we don't know. It is a right, but that right must be exercised judicially and judiciously. That's why Allah again cautions, despite the fact giving us the right to ask questions. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tas'alu an ashya'a in tubda lakum tasukum. Only you believe, don't ask questions. Questions that when you are given the answer, it will become problems for you. Am turiduna an tas'alu rasulakum kama su'ila Musa min qablu. Do you want to question your prophet as Prophet Musa was questioned? Conclusion. Islam gives everyone rights to exercise freedom of expression as long as it does not intrude upon the rights and dignity of other persons. Hence, Islam does not grant anybody the right to use abusive language or offensive language in the name of criticism or freedom of expression. Indeed, Islam grants everyone the right to have his opinion, but that must be done within the boundaries of morality. Islam limits rights to freedom of expression where it exceeds the norms of decency and creates the social disorder. Islamic law, which is based on the Holy Quran and Sunnah, maintains and opposes the right of freedom of expression, but restricting it when it results in hampering the cause of peace and order or an harmony. Even where speech is offensive and hurtful, Islam encourages that courtesy and decorum should be the watchword. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And the servants of the gracious God are those who walk with humility, and when they are assaulted ignorantly, they walk away in peace. The foregoing discussion demonstrates that Islam maintains and opposes right to freedom of expression in a more decent and comprehensive way. Therefore, applying Islamic approach to the existing conditions seems applicable and more appropriate, and would enable social engineers to develop theories as per Islamic design. Absolute freedom and discussion on every aspect of human endeavors would only result in biasness and turmoil in the society. May Almighty Allah continue to enable us to exercise our right to freedom of expression in a way that we handle His blessings and not His anger. And may Almighty Allah continue to give us and grant us eternal peace as well as heavenly peace, so that Nigeria can be a safer place for every one of us to live. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Long live Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat worldwide. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Islam. Ahmadiyya. Muhammad Rasulullah.
Thank you very much for that wonderful lecture. I hope you are taking notes. The next lecture is going to be taken by our very dear brother, Dr. Gadi Abdullah. This has to do with our health. The topic is aging and dementia. Challenges, management and prevention. This is a very, very important lecture that we have to listen to very attentively. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Respected Naib Amir, in charge of finance and administration, Al-Hajj Fadilullah Bankole Sahib, the respected Sadar Majlis Ansarullah, members of Amila Majlis Ansarullah Nigeria, respected fathers and brothers listening across the internet all over the country. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the next few minutes, we'll be taking a look at a topic that, though common, but not regularly discussed. It's a topic too that its language may look a bit strange to us, but I believe at the end of this discussion, our awareness about the topic will have been heightened. Then the understanding of it and our perception, predisposition towards it would have also improved. And if there are any misconception, one way or the other, it might have been removed. So I shall be looking at aging and dementia. The two are different topics, but because in my own understanding, I believe dementia was targeted, and because dementia is a disease of old age, that is why aging comes in. So briefly, I will just talk about aging as the process of becoming older, during which period modification of many human biological processes occur. Aging, though not a homogeneous process, it is characterized by progressive and broadly predictable changes that are associated with increased susceptibility to many diseases. This we do not need to ask ourselves. Our bodies are no longer the same. And it is just because God has granted us the grace of witnessing 30, 40, 50, maybe some 60. And with that course, changes have come. At the biological level, it results from the impact of the accumulation of a wide variety of molecular and cellular damages over time, just like wear and tears, those who use cars. No matter where it is produced, the ball and socket, the joints, eventually wear and tears will come in, and some parts we have to be replaced. Unfortunately, body is not like that. Even the parts of vehicles, machines can be replaced. Yes, parts of human too can also be replaced because we are aware of transplanting. But even with transplanting,
the optimal function is not what we get anymore. So this leads to a gradual decrease in the physical and mental capacity, a growing risk of disease, and ultimately death. It is of note that organs in the same person age are at different rates, influenced by multiple factors, including genetic makeup, lifestyle choices, and environmental exposures. You see somebody, his legs, his joints will be older than his brain. Though he's very brilliant, can perform function, but is no longer active. Some can still move around their age, or the eyes have become older than other parts of the body. So sometimes, even though we age gradually, the different parts of the body also age differently. Our age is 70, but the eye can become like that of a 50 years eye. A 50-year person can have the eye changes that a 70-year person will have. And somebody is 70, 80, he does not have cataract. And somebody is 45, is already having cataract. Due to scientific and technological advancement, many people are living longer than ever. The number and proportion of people over 60 years, because biologically too, old age is seen to begin from 65. Though physical ailments, just as sort of age, medically have also been noted to start occurring from 35. There are diseases that are associated with age, like hypertension, diabetes, that can begin to crop up, just because somebody is 35 and changes are occurring. But in clear terms, biologically or medically, old age is from 65 and above. And because many children were born in those days and they died due to infections or for several reasons, war, among others, a lot of people, even though we have very few people live very long, majority do not live very long. But today, because of opportunity to treatment and other advancements, a lot of people are becoming older. And WHO reported in 2019 that people that are 60 years and above were about 1 billion. If the world population was like 7.8 billion, it means that about 15% of that population were people who were 60 and above. And in year 2030, about 1.4 billion, an increment of 400 million people just in 4 years, in 10 years, and by 2050, over 2 billion people will become older than 60. That is going to be significant health burden when we look at people that are old. Though we are afraid that we should all become old and grow old. This increase is occurring at an alarming rate and will accelerate in coming decades, particularly in developing countries. Spending more time on health is desirable, but it will come with its attendant health issues. Dementia, which is the topic we are discussing today, is majorly a disease or a problem of old age. And this is alluded to in the Quranic verse, Quran Surah Nal, Quran 16 verse 71. Allah says, Wallahu khalaqakum, it's Allah who creates you, thumma yatawaffakum, and He also causes you to die. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ أَرْضَ الْعُمُرِ لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ بَعْدَ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. That Allah creates you, and so many people will cause to die, but some will be given the opportunity to grow old to such age that لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ بَعْدَ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا, that they now know nothing. After they have acquired so much knowledge, their knowledge will disappear from them. So according to the World Health Organization report of 2020 on dementia, over 50 million people were affected by dementia worldwide. And by 2030, this is likely to have increased to 65.7 million. And by year 2050, this will have doubled. We will have close over 115 million people. Just the rate at which the increment in the number of demented people will increase, will continue to increase as time also goes by. And let us look at the disease ratio. Dementia is very uncommon before 65. When it is not that it cannot occur, but when it occurs, people make frantic effort to look for the cause because it may not just be due to age alone. However, people are 65 and above. If we take 100 of them, 6 of them will be demented. However, if we take people that are 80 and above, if we take 100 of them, 20 of them will be demented. So it means that as the age advances, the risk of dementia occurs. Dementia itself is defined as a deterioration in cognitive abilities. Don't mind me, I'll try to break some of this down. That impairs the successful performance of activities of daily living. The person loses the brain function to work as a human being on a daily basis. It is a globally progressive deterioration. When it occurs, it begins to occur, and the individual does not have significant hope of improving. It will just be worsening. The deterioration in mental functions characterized by problem with memory. Our memory is lost. At least, and also at least there's also loss of function in one of the cognitive functions of learning. Person is unable to learn new things, cannot reason. Also, he loses words. He cannot remember words. He can also not learn new words. He finds it difficult to express himself. He is talking and he's scratching, struggling to get the appropriate words. And then spatial orientation. Somebody that has been used to a street is confused. He does no longer know the street, or he does not even know his room. And can often not handle complex tasks in the presence of normal consciousness. The person is conscious, he does not lose consciousness. He can no longer add 2 plus 2. He comes from market or they bring money to him. They are decreasing, he does not know what they had. They can no longer remember whether I had 10,000 naira yesterday or I had 5,000 naira yesterday. It is whatever that is handed over to them that they take. According to what is used to make a diagnosis of dementia, the US majorly they have the diagnostic and statistical manual is a book, a collection of books to give us an idea of who has a dementia. Though there is a current edition, the 5th edition, but the one that is most widely used is the version 4. That's the diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorder. I put certain things together that if we find in someone who say the person is demented. First, there must be evidence from the history and mental status examination that indicates that major impairment in learning and memory as well as at least one of the following. So, one thing that is constant, there is memory loss. And the person also does not have the capacity to learn. If one has this, there's no need. The person is fully conscious. There's no impairment of consciousness. We only look for other things to add to it and see this person has dementia or not. Impairment in handling complex tasks, I've said this. Impairment in reasoning, impairment in spatial ability and orientation, impaired language. The cognitive symptoms must significantly interfere with the individual's work, performance, usual social activities, or relationship with other people. This problem will be so severe enough that the person can no longer function as normal. The disturbances are also insidious. Other causes of impairment of unconsciousness or impairment of consciousness will have been ruled out. It is not that the person was diabetic and unconscious and it begins to talk abnormally, or the person has taken drugs and begins to talk abnormally, or someone has high-grade fever and begins to talk abnormally. All these other medical conditions would have been ruled out. And when these have been excluded, the diagnosis of dementia can be made. Then, major psychiatric disorder too must also be ruled out. There are different forms of psychiatric disorder, but usually we talk of schizophrenia, that is madness. But it is not the only one. There are several. Depression, lack of, for somebody to be unhappiness, the way we can classify depression, to have a depressed person is to be unhappy. If somebody is unhappy, the person also may not be able to concentrate and may also lose memory. And in fact, those are part of the criteria in making diagnosis of depression. Such a person will not be classified as somebody who has dementia. So psychiatric disorder must be excluded. The disturbances are not better accounted for by systemic illness. Here, dementia itself is like a symptom. Why do I say so? There are several conditions that cause dementing illness. For example, I'll give us an example. Fever. Fever is not a disease. It's a symptom. If somebody has malaria, can have fever. If somebody has typhoid, will have fever. If somebody has other forms of infection, the person may also have fever. Even if somebody stays in the sun for too long, the person can also have fever. So you will not pick fever and say fever is a disease. No. So dementia is also like that. So there are major illnesses associated with dementia, and the leading one of them is Alzheimer's disease. And is said to be responsible for 70 to 80% of people who have dementia. Other things are Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a disorder of motion. People move and they have rigidity, they cannot control themselves, among others. They are part of dementia. It can also be a cause of dementia. There's what we call Lewy bodies dementia. All this, I don't want to bother us with them. Pick's disease is also a cause of dementia. However, there are other illnesses that are not really neurodegenerative disorders. The one I've talked about, Parkinson, Alzheimer, Pick's disease, even Huntington, they are all neurodegenerative. They cause abnormality in the nerves, in the neuron, the brain tissue. You know, when we break the skull of animal, we can bring out the brain. That brain, changes can occur in it that will cause neurodegenerative diseases. But there are other things that can also occur in the brain that will secondly affect the brain function. And one leading cause of that is what we call vascular disease. Vascular accident. Somebody who has a little bleed into the brain. Somebody whose vessels no longer supply enough blood to the brain. Eventually, the brain tissue will die. And when that brain tissue begins to die, it is called vascular dementia. So such a person will suffer from dementia. People have tuberculosis, chronic head injury, tuberculosis of the brain, meningitis, hydrocephalus. Some of these people may suffer dementia in the long run. Chronic alcohol intake. Somebody who takes alcohol consistently, such person is unable to take the required nutrients, particularly vitamin B12. They are unable to take it regularly. And when they are unable to take it regularly, because vitamin B12 is also essential for the function and maintenance of the neurons, when it is lacking in the appropriate amount, neurodegenerative illness can also come in. What are the things that predispose somebody to have dementia? The first and foremost of it is age. Like I said, it is almost rare to have somebody 50 years and below to have dementia. Also, so that one is growing at any 60, 70 is a risk factor. It is not a certainty that person will come down with dementia. I said by 65 it's only 6 out of 100. Even by 80 it's only 20 out of 100. So there is a chance for 80 out of 100 who are 80 years not to suffer dementia. But don't forget, because let me also say that there is a general decline by age itself that we suffer in our capacity to learn new things. It's just a general decline in functions. Just like we suffer general decline in our activities to cultivate, to make hits, to run, we suffer this decline. So the brain itself suffers this decline. It doesn't mean that it is dementia, because the person will still be able to live like a normal human being and make some degree of function. Also, that somebody's parent has dementia is a risk factor that the person may have dementia, because it has also been well documented that it may run in the family. That somebody's siblings have, somebody may also have it. I've mentioned people who have chronic head injury, boxers, pugilists, whose heads are hit all the time. The brain tissue is like something within a ball that is pushed, tossed around all the time. And with that, there's micro bleeding, little bleeding to the brain, and that can cause brain damage. In particular, I don't want to mention this because vascular diseases that has to do with hypertension, diabetes, hypercholesterol. Why I don't, because we discussed this with the non-Americans when we're talking about cholesterol. Because you know the vessel is like this in caliber, and at a younger age it can extend like this. However, when deposit of cholesterol comes into the wall, it becomes less pliable and it becomes rigid. In fact, sometimes there's plaque sclerosis that we call it. They will fall within the lumen and they will reduce the caliber. The amount of blood flowing through that lumen is significantly reduced to cause problems. So some people who have some of these problems may in the later day have the risk of dementia. How is dementia itself diagnosed? Certain methods are used to diagnose dementia, but the most important diagnosis of dementia is the use of mini mental state examination. An individual, mostly people who have dementia are not the one who goes to doctor and say I have dementia. They are taken by relatives to doctor that we observe that somebody or so or my father is, or my mother is no longer behaving as expected. And a mini mental state examination will be conducted. There are scores of 30. And usually somebody who has 24 and above is considered a normal human being. And what do they tell the person? As the person visits you in the clinic, you meet the person. You ask him or her, what is today's date? He's able to tell you what is the day, what is the month, what is the season, which time of the day. And if somebody is able to recall all this, is completely oriented in time, place, and person, and that person is given a whole 5 marks. There are other questions that are asked, which also test the brain. The ability to learn new words. The person is told 3 words repeatedly. Ball, egg, yam. You tell the person, you are testing the immediate memory. Some people are unable to repeat it. So for each score, they are able to repeat. They are able to learn. You repeat. You say those words. They repeat after you. If they are able to repeat the 3, you give them the score of 3. About 10-15 minutes after, you ask them what you have, the new words you have given to them. Some might have forgotten. Even the first test, some will not be able to pick those words. So some of these are used to test the person. Now, and when the score is less than 24, suspicion or diagnosis of dementia can be made, particularly in a conscious person. Let me say that, like you go to lab and somebody who has malaria, his blood will be taken and they will detect malaria parasite. In dementia, there is nothing like that. There is nothing that categorically says that you are going to test that person in his blood or in his brain, you are going to find it. No. But there are changes that have been noted that are found in people who have dementia. They are just supportive. The most important diagnostic method is the mini mental state examination. Now, for such people, we may screen them for vitamin B deficiency. They may have, if it is deficient, it could be responsible because we know vitamin B deficiency can be a cause. Usually, they do a CT of the brain. The CT of the brain is not to make a diagnosis. It's to help to check the brain volume. Usually, for people who have dementia, the brain thickness is reduced. So there is reduction in brain volume, and that gives an idea their brain becomes thinner compared to people of their similar age. And if they come up with this attitude, it may also be supportive. The real diagnosis of dementia is probably to take tissue from the brain and do what we call histology. But for somebody that is still living, that tends to be more injurious to the treatment we want to offer that person. So nobody does that. But usually patients who die with suspicion of dementia, their brains can be opened up. And usually what we look for, we do histology. And there's what we call amyloid deposits. They are just different forms of proteins that are found in their brain. And these are been found to be very common in people who have Alzheimer's disease and who have dementia. And there's also what we call Lewy body, Lewy body 2. It's also a form of a protein that is also identified in the brain of people who suffer these forms of dementia. So in the recent, the diagnosis, the suspicion of dementia will be made by relative, and the individual is taken to doctor, and the doctor will do a mini mental state examination and then make assessment. I would say that some of the risk factors that I did not mention, that because even when we look at our society, because some of these factors for dementia is not being educated, not having education. And you know, for a Muslim, a practicing Muslim, it is not until we go to the formal world of universities to get educated. Learning what the provision of Islam in itself will give us will give us certain ground that will provide knowledge. However, you also find out that even though our learning in terms of literacy level and formal education compared to the developed world is low, but they have this disease more than we do. Because also one of the causes also of dementia is loneliness. One of the risk factors of dementia is loneliness. It's not having social cohesion. You find out that the family structure is completely broken down in the developed society. The moment the children are 18 and above, they are at home. That is even for those who have children. In Switzerland, it is said that their population pyramid is like this. Older people than the younger people. Plenty of couples who never see any necessity in having kids. They were married, but they don't see need to have children. If you not look at our side, you find out that in our side, somebody will see the 60 will get a new wife. And so that person, even when the wife that he has at the age of 30 has also become independent, and the children have all become grown up and they have left home, they are still not alone because they are starting another generation. They both have pros and cons. So such individuals in our society are able to have family support. So lack of family support in itself is a risk factor for dementia. And if you go through some of the management prescription, social cohesion, family support also forms part of the treatment. A few drugs have been recommended for dementia, and I will not bore us with some of these drugs. Usually, if I say acetylcholinesterase, what does it mean? Please, those who will read this aspect. But there's an aspect that is important. In the treatment of dementia, there's what is called social therapy or psychotherapy. And usually that is the aspect that relatives, family members come in. Usually we talk of environmental modification. For people who have forgotten their environment, the environment is refined in such that sometimes if somebody's toilet is at that corner, you don't put so much items that will cause clumsiness. You evacuate as many as unimportant items and you create a mark, an arrow that will lead the man to toilet. And when you get to that toilet, on the toilet seat, you also draw a picture that will represent somebody sitting on the toilet, that will make you think, oh, you see somebody sitting on the toilet, and you open the toilet seat and sit on it. If not, a lot of parents have become who suffer dementia, their care have become unbearable. So there's a need for environmental modification, and also there's a need for family support. Usually, before dementia also takes the toll, its toll on the individual. There's also what we call power of Anthony. Usually, an individual who is blessed or who has authority, who has position, who knows that a time will come, they will become demented and they will not be able to take possession. They go to court and give power of attorney to somebody. They know that under rain, under sun, that person will represent their interest. So when they become demented, that individual begin to take decisions on their part. If not, we have seen children whose parents become demented, they will just be withdrawing the money of the parents because they know that the man can no longer read and write. Allah does not make every money to any minute. I have seen. So not even in America, I have seen where I practice in Owo. So the father, a pensioner, his son was going about with his ATM and the small phone. So anytime the man's money drops, the boy spends the money. So for such a case, a power of attorney can be obtained, the bank be informed, and necessary organization will be informed that nobody can take such decision except the person given power of attorney. Some of the things that can also help in preventing in helping to reduce the trigger, in helping to manage it is to reduce the trigger, what brings it up, like anger, unnecessary annoyance. Also, people have talked about aromatherapy, the regular exercise and attention shifting. All these have been found to help to improve the condition of Alzheimer's dementing individual. I've talked about the family support. Yes, there is a new hope. However, it is hope, like I've said. Hope is not reality, but hope can be comforting. Efforts are being made to find out whether vaccines can be given to individuals that will make them have less degenerative changes in the brain. However, currently there is no vaccine. Efforts have been made, there is no vaccine that has been found to be successful. However, people at risk in some developed countries are currently taking what is called passive immunity, particularly passive immunization. Certain drugs have been mentioned, like crenizumab have mentioned. They are like drug or monoclonal antibodies that can be injected to them to prevent the rate at which to prevent the onset of the disease and even to decrease the rate of progression of the disease. However, dementia still remains a challenge in that it is progressive. The particular cause, yet we do not know. When it starts, it's just going down the ladder. Again, it cannot be completely prevented. Unfortunately, it is irreversible and currently has no known cure. So all available treatments are just supportive. I'll talk about prevention. So I will conclude by saying that dementia, though a medical condition with multiple causes, are defined by an acquired and progressive loss of higher mental function affecting two or more cognitive domains. It robs patients of their independence and is a serious burden on carers and a major socio-economic challenge for society as a whole. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afiyah wa tamam al-afiyah wa shukra al-afiyah. At this stage, I want to thank the Majlis and Sarula for the opportunity given me to talk on this topic, and I believe that this introduction would in a way been able to help us and create some degree of awareness about this particular disease. May Allah grant us intact memory till we return to Him. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
We are supposed to be wrapping up. Going by the program. We are closing to that at 3:55 p.m. We'll see how it was going next. Good. Next is comments, questions, and answers. We have questions, we have comments, we have one person lifting up his hand. That's the first one. Okay, question number one. That's two. Look at the three. From here. Questions and answers. We have three here from Lagos end. So from other venues. You don't know if you have. So if you have questions, please write your questions down. So in the meantime, we want to take the speech that we have here. Number one. Bias Flower.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I tend to believe that the doctor side has told us that there is treatment for dementia. I think I'm right. Yes. I am used to two particular types of, one is my friend of younger age. He is a patient. But the most unfortunate thing is that he, like the doctor said, if you don't have interaction, I think the wife shielded her away from her siblings and even friends until we were told that he's hospitalized, and the cause, no, not the cause, what we eventually discovered that he's a patient of this particular disease. To cut the whole thing short, the children too, they were not forthcoming, and he eventually was taken to old people's home with the notion that he's receiving treatment there. It's only himself and the wife that are living. And the wife said she can no longer stay indoors all her life. So that's why she organized with the children to take him to old people's home. The friends tried to tell her to convince the children that that is not the best thing to do.
It's not the case. There's no time.
That they could, yes sir. But what I just want to know is a comment I just commented on my listing. But the case of another person, it is not dementia or whatever, but he could not talk. He couldn't talk for a long time. In fact, until he died, he could not talk. But you can see the expression on his face when you say something. If he's happy, he will smile. Whenever I visit him, he will smile and stretch his hand and hold my hand, shake me properly. The wife will comment that, that sort of thing. But what aspect is that the state that he could not talk for over 5 years? Until he died, he could not talk. Could it be dementia or Parkinson, like you have said that is this thing?
Yeah. I think you got your question. All right. Number two.
I want to ask the doctor who has given this lecture, from your professional point of view, when we have people that are gotten to a very old age, say from 80 and above, in the other client, they take such people to old people's home for care because relatives are not forthcoming. From your own professional point of view, would it be advisable for us in this client to take to such step, taking our old people to old people's home because we could not give them the necessary care?
Assalamu alaikum. My own question is to ask the doctor to tell us what are the early symptoms of this dementia. Probably, if I may ask, a situation where someone wants to take something somewhere, he left where he was and went to the place to take that thing. But before he got there, he forgot what he wanted to take. And later came back. Maybe about 2 or 3 minutes after, he now remembers that this is what I wanted to do. And he went back again. Could that be an early symptom of dementia? That's my question.
Thank you very much. I think we ask the doctor to help us answer these 3 questions. There are no questions coming from other stations.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. the constitution of human has and is functioned by all body parts, has a control in the brain. There is no part of our brain. The brain regulates itself and regulates every body part. Finger movement, ability to talk, to blink, open the eye, everything has been computed, represented in the brain. It's just like the electrician, what do they call it? Is it junction box? Or control box, or some junction box, where they put all the wires that control switch. Sir? Distribution box and head. You know, in that wire, sometimes something will trip off. You discover that the lights, the bulbs are bringing light, but the sockets are not working. For somebody like us, will be bothering the. But when we call somebody as an expert, the person will go to the distribution box and just switch on. For somebody, there are two types of. For our ability to talk, is usually controlled by a part of the brain. The brain is divided into different lobes. We have the frontal, temporal, and occipital lobe. So there is a place they call Broca's speech area. If that place is damaged, whether usually by a form of stroke, you know, when we say stroke, what is common to our other when we cannot walk, maybe the upper and the lower limb. No, stroke can occur in the eye that can just affect any part of the body. So if that place suffers blood loss, the person may not be able to talk. He may be able to perform other functions, but that is not likely to be dementia. Dementia does not really come with inability to talk, is called aphasia. The dementia does not clinically come with inability to talk. The person will still be able to show certain expression, but there will be loss of word. Somebody asked me, so such a person probably that has suffered a damage to the hospital lobe. Can we take our parents to hospices, homes for the elderly? What? Whether they are 70, whether they are 100, wherever they are, as Muslims, I think there is no society that has the best of guides than we do. Because, in fact, one of the verses I do not talk about in my write-up is Quran 17, I think 24 to 25. We allow and the Quran goes further to talk about how we should relate with our parents, but particularly when they attain old age and they begin to behave like someone that looks stupid. You know, it is when we are young that we are stupid. How can an old man again become stupid? That an old man indeed can behave like somebody. But for what we know and they have given information to us, the Quran has guided that we must conduct ourselves in the best of ways in relating with them. And the best of words, kind and honorable words, is what we should say to them. We should never say and how. So, the least of disgust we should not express towards them because of the way they behave. Now the Quran goes further to say that وَقُرَّ بِرْحَمُهُمَا وَقْفِدْ جَنَاحَكَ ذُلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. That you should lower the wing of your kindness to your parents. How do we do that? One of the best ways to do that is to take care of them. The verse says that whoever that is parents becomes hold in his hands, whether one or both of them, and is unable to seek God's pleasure or jhana through them, that he has lost the opportunity. Indeed, even though the whites have created auspices for their parents because of the extreme freedom they create for themselves, the Islamic society or the Islamic teachings does not encourage us to abandon our parents. Someone who backed us, somebody who gave everything so that we can live when we had no knowledge, when we were like them. When they not become like us then, it is not the time to abandon them. When for extreme case or extreme circumstance, it may not be possible to take a parent to an hospice, a home for the elder. It is not impossible, because even if someone is so willing but is also incapacitated. But you know what? In the African setting, the extended family is so grounded that hardly is anybody alone. You know, it is when we now consider ourselves so alone, myself and my wife, that we become so old that we no longer have relatives. But if you have lived among your parents, among your brothers, among your siblings, who probably see your own children as theirs, who treat and respect your own wife, if you are no more, or even if you become debilitated, you are not likely to be abandoned. So I think we should strengthen the gift that we only have left in Africa. Because if you take them, even patients that are strong, that are healthy, go to hospitals. We are not that very friendly because people are hungry. You know, the most cared of set of staff in the hospital are the nurses, because of attitude and the way they talk, and a serious apology. But again, it's also because of the duty they give to them in not having to care for 10 patients. The nurse will become so, we may not be able to control ourselves because we become so worried and then behave sometimes somehow. So offices is the last option. It's not the best option for us in Africa. Early symptoms of dementia. There are different types of memory, usually 3. We talk of immediate memory, ability to say something and repeat it. You call your name for me and I remember and I say it. And there's also what we call recent memory. You have told me something, and 20 minutes after you come back and still able to recollect it. And usually there's what we call permanent memory. Like, I've known my name, I know my wife's name, I know my kid's name. It will be hard for me to forget. But people who are demented cannot even recognize their children anymore. So the early symptoms in people who have dementia is the recent memory that is first affected. Aside the fact that the form of memory they lose first is that something that they have been told in 20 minutes, 15 minutes ago, if they are to remember it, they can no longer remember. That's the early warning sign or symptom. But like I said, age is important. The mind can be preoccupied, distressed, that can make somebody to keep something in his pocket, and even a 15-year-old boy, a 30-year-old boy will be looking at it elsewhere. That does not translate to dementia. It may just be because of other things. And there are other factors that may affect memory. Anxiety. Somebody that is restless, depressed, depression. Somebody that is depressed. All these things affect memory.
Before you leave, somebody sent down this question. He said, if at the age of 50 and 60, one cannot memorize some lessons or sentences, does that amount to dementia?
No, sir. It doesn't.
alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I understand some of our members from other stations are waiting to present their questions. From Ibadan, please, can you? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I understand some of our members from other stations are waiting to present their questions. From Ibadan, please, can you come up, please? Ibadan, we are waiting for you. Any problem? Okay, Undo, can we hear you? Okay, we are not hearing you. Are you going to call another person, please? That's the only person. Ipokia, okay, you are listening. With the permission of the chairman, sir, the only thing I would say is only a mental that does not forget. So we should keep that at the back of our mind. That even the best or the most brilliant person forgets. And that we forget what we learn doesn't mean the person is demented. Dementia goes just beyond forgetting things. There is loss of what one has acquired. There is a memory loss. What one has acquired is completely wiped away. Then one has
inability to learn new things, in addition to other problems. So somebody who learns 5 words yesterday and does not even remember all, the one he learned day before yesterday has he forgotten? No. So the person is not demented. You can still tell him go and he can walk around in his room, on his street. People who are demented cannot do this. So, and also, we said this is a disease of people who are 65 and above. Rarely do we find it between people who are 50 and 65. Not even talk of somebody who is a primary school pupil. So it is very unlikely, though we are taught not to say never in medicine, but it is very unlikely. We all forget that we are seated here, and it doesn't mean that we all have dementia.
Ondo, is Ondo still on? He's gone. How about Ojoju? Ojoju? This is 4:15. We have to start to wind up. Ojoju is not coming. And Ojo. All right. We are going to move to foot of that. All right, other comments. Sarah staff want to give it back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know we are getting closer to the end of the 45th National Ijtema by short time. And before the chairman's remark, and then closing remark, I want to intimate you about the performance so far since Maan. Out of the 57 dealers in the country, with the record within me, we have 39. 39 years out of 57, which means we are having 18 dealers who did not participate in this national Ijtema. I wouldn't know whether they actually take part, maybe because of one or the other. Maybe there are crises in the area, we could not attend in the center. But if you are not part of those that we have mentioned, please kindly send your list later. However, this is how the technique flows. I only mention 4. We have Ikorodu, 73 participants, leading the whole country. We also have Akpata 73, that is brackets. Akpata has 73 in attendance, followed by Lagos Mainland, who has 69 participants. The third position goes to Ibadan with 68 participants. However, out of the whole candidate, we attended this workshop in the Ijtema. We have 1,218 as at the time I'm talking. Will be increased maybe after the Ijtema sending it electronically. So we have anonymous that are 26, we cannot recognize them with their respective billing. We also have working class people like the ICT department, the public address, the electrical to be 13. So I think with the coordinating with me, that's what we have recorded so far. It could be increased before the end or even after the end of the program. They can send us the actual tightening from their various ends. So I want to thank you. The better to do the both of time to do that, but I want to remind you that the national Shura that is coming on 23-24 October requires some duties before we can do so. For instance, if any dealer has not sent his budget between now and the end of this week, I mean the middle of this week, which is Wednesday, that person may not be captured. So well, we have sent message outside to the various dealer almost a month ago. So they send their budget for us to compile everything. Likewise, the Shura proposals. You can send your proposal on or before that Wednesday. Then finally, there will be finance meeting of Major on the 3rd of September 2021 at the Masala Housing. Those that concern the finance department will bring their work activities so far. So the correct man is going to champion that. They are followed by his 9B to follow it to defend the budget. While this facility people should also join. All the 19 Sada to attend, then they should also attend. Then what again? Attendance Sadas are blue, that's Sada admin, that's Sada Awa, which was to attend in our 17th. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can you invite Alaji Nagaraki for vote of thanks?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to start my appreciation in line with the Holy Quran, where Allah says, "Lain zakaritum la azidannakum, wa lain kafaritum inna azabi lashadid." We are greatly grateful to Almighty Allah, who had, out of His infinite mercy, disposed this program to our favor. Because man proposes, God disposes. We are grateful to Allah, say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, to have favorably disposed this program. Next to this is in line with the hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which says, "Man lam yaskur nasa, falam yaskur Allah." I want to extend my appreciation to all members who has given us support in different ramifications. Our minister, we are very grateful. He has put anything that has to do with Ansarullah as his topmost and has been giving us topmost priority.
We are very grateful for you. May Allah continue to protect, bless, and support him so that the marriage will continue with its mentor. We are grateful to you at various day centers for your effort to assemble your people and for the sacrifices and of your time and money. May Allah reward you with abundance of blessings. All the support officers who are giving support services, right from those who have prepared food for us, because an empty stomach has no ear. If we have not eaten, we will not even be able to enjoy this program. So we are grateful to you, the MTA, the audiovisual, the electricity, all those who have participated either overtly or overtly, Allah sees you. I say in summary that may Allah reward you with abundance of blessings. And last but not the least is the Sada Sahib. Like I always say, it is God that is anonymous, but Sada Sahib is borrowing these attributes. As he says to, you continue to monitor, you continue to say, I don't want to snatch it from you, but I want to see how you are doing it. So when he delegates, he does not abdicate. May Allah continue to bless you. To others that have not mentioned, Allah sees you, Allah knows you, and I pray to Almighty Allah to reward us all with abundance of blessings. Jazakumullahu khairan, hasanan jazaa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are almost there. The next item is the chairman's closing remarks. After which there will be announcements and then a closing prayer. So I will do the chairman's closing remarks very brief. Sada Majlis Ansarullah Madya Nigeria. All the executives of Ansarullah Madya Nigeria, our interested guest speakers, member of Majlis Ansarullah Madya Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. We have come as usual, as we used to come every year for this kind of program. Just like I said in the first session, and many of us also make the same remark that I got new things different from what we have been hearing in the past. Obviously, there are no new things. This goes to say that because we appreciate that we have been listening to all these lectures over the years, it gives me impression that we want to make a change And that is why we are concerned that we come here, every our programs, to lectures, even during jazzers. And we are concerned because we have not been seeing the positive effect of all these lectures that we have been listening to. It is my prayer that we will take to the advice given by the GS in his lecture. When somebody asks that, okay, what then can we do to make this desirable change? Remind every one of us what he said, that it has to start from me as a person. Am I a good ambassador of the Jamaat? I should ask myself that question, and I should be able to answer that question. Am I a honest and a sincere Ahmadi? It's a question that I have to answer. I want to have to answer that question that I put to my wife. Is my wife an active, sincere, obedient member of the Jamaat? Are my children also active, obedient, and sincere members of the Jamaat? Except we start from there. We will always be coming every year and be talking, just Nigeria way. If we listen to different analysis of Nigerian problem, everybody will come in there, analyzing it, digesting it. Where are the solutions? It is story upon story, story upon story, story upon story, every year. I wish, I pray that from today we'll be able to make some changes. There's no doubt we have all acknowledged that fact that we are not making the desired goals as expected by His Holiness. And that is the truth. The issue of limit of freedom of expression, of course we should know that there's limit. We cannot have a blanket freedom for everything. Those that claim that they have freedom for everything, they are seeing the results. They are seeing the results. Look at what happened in the US, January 6th or something like that. It is this freedom of expression. And look at what has caused them. Even within us here in Nigeria, this freedom of expression, the way we use it with our social media, is causing us serious problem. Serious one. And we don't need to be told that as a Muslim, there are certain utterances that you don't make at all. Not to talk of now, disseminating it to other people. Like I said, we have had it before. We have had it again today. Let us pray that we are going to live, to make some positive changes. The issue of our health, as the doctor has said, there's no doubt, it has clear that we grow old, but there are consequences. So, if you want to grow old and you don't want to face your challenges, you either prefer to go quickly and not to go very old. If you want to go very old, you have to face the consequences. It has its own attendant, challenges, no doubt about it. So we can only go by the advice of the doctors by taking some precautions, which is very, very necessary. That's one major prevention, and that is exercise. There's no doctor you talk to that will not stress on exercise. If you want to lower your blood pressure, engage in constant group exercise of your body, it also assists to that your blood function. So it is not every event that will resort to taking all this kind of caution that we want to heal ourselves. At the end of the day, we get our kidney, our liver damaged. So we have to be very, very careful with our health. We should watch what we eat, we should watch what we drink, and exercise our body frequently. This is very, very important. Yeah, okay, aside from all this, the Jamaat as a whole in Nigeria, you are aware of our budget, which is deficit budget. We all sat down together, we did the budget, and it's a good challenge. If at this age of ours, local will still be sending money down to us to augment the salary that we pay the missionaries. We still have to work very, very, very hard to improve, in our both all the standards. The Wasea, the Shanda, Shanda Justice Alana, Tabik, Tariq Jadi, Wak Jadi, scholarship, welfare. If you see the number of applications coming to the headquarters of welfare scholarship, whoa, you just wonder how are we coping? And the system that this President Imara has adopted, and that is encouraging people to sacrifice, voluntary donations, pick up a project, and execute it. It's really paying us. I went to Okuni Abeokuta some time ago, and I was telling some of them that I met, including the staff president, I said, look, this project you can complete this project without coming to headquarters. Doctor, keep this side, plaster it. We will you take this one, do it. This one, take that one, do it. Before you know, you would have completed it. So I was there last week. Yeah, just last week for Wednesday. I got to that mosque. I was amazed with what I saw. They gone beyond what I was able telling them to do. Without going to others. I was extremely happy. Extremely happy. Honestly, I don't know how to describe them. Right from there, I had to call the circle presidents and express my appreciation for what they have done. Ilaro, I was the circle president, and he showed me pictures of 5 mission houses that they were built simultaneously at roof level. So this is the kind of thing we should be doing now. Let each person take a decision. That's what I'm going to do for this Jamaat. I don't need to be telling you. You don't need to be told what will be the reward is what you have been taught. There is no amount of money you spend in this way that is not going to give back to you in many folds. There's no doubt about it. Those that are doing it, they are seeing the results. So let us also, follow suit by doing that. I pray that Allah will assist all of us. I pray that the decision that we have taken today, or that we are going to take when we leave this place, that it will come to pass, inshallah, assist. This year, the 45th Ijtema has come, and as you can see the end, maybe in another 5 minutes now, it's become to an end. We pray that we will get more of it, in the years to come. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next on our agenda here is announcement. And the announcement is by oversight to thank the organizer of this program, particularly the SADA staff and the committee that really put out the program. You see, there is every good things from things that you even consider not to be good. The effect of COVID is what brought us to this kind of system that we adopted. All over Nigeria, we are attending Ijtema. People contributed right from their station. If there's anybody that even sat in his living room, will have been part of this program. That is the advantage of technology. So I thank the organizers, the engineers there. I was so much amazed when I came and saw them there. I said, these people, they all came from Mali, Sudan, and they just over in Azarullah. I don't know who else they want. Okay, you're also there. Okay, so I thank you very much. I'm happy with your work. So Jazakallah Khairan. So Salasa, we are also translating simultaneously. You know, in the past, somebody will present in English, and then will come and translate, and then will come and translate, in Hausa, So we waste a lot of time by that system. What is like, we are really London, where the sermon is delivered and is translated simultaneously to various languages. Alhamdulillah. So congratulations to Sada Magis and Sadullah. Next is all right. We are very sorry that we spent more than the necessary time. We started late, so this is about 4:40. We're supposed to have finished at 55. So please join me in the closing prayer. Praise be to Amin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Nare Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Nare Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Islam.
Zindabad.
Ahmadiyya.
Zindabad.
Al-Quran.
Zindabad.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. 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 La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasul.